Okay, this is a video not about fixing a hole in the ceiling, which I had to fix. I had to do this thing and then put some things here and then put some things here and then try to get it done. And I made such a mess of it. And here's why I showed you this crap is because when I watched videos on how to do that, I got so frustrated. I was screaming and swearing and going, oh, crap. Please explain things to me. They just, swipe the mush stuff around and they said, oh, just do it like this. Poof, poof, poof. They didn't tell you to clean the thing. They didn't tell you the fundamentals. So here's what I'm going to do here. I made that other video and I've got some comments, and I'm gonna try to make things. I'm gonna try to explain things a little bit better here, okay? And if you don't want to watch it, good, turn it off immediately. I'm gonna explain how to make these little buttons, which I've explained before, but maybe not for a while. I'm gonna make sure and explain how to really use these effectively and not mess up models with them and not have some guy from I'm Russian man from and I can't do that because it's not part of my certificate. Well, here's what you can do if I can find my developer tab, we can make a button that says reset. And I'm just going to make it a new button. Up. And so we're going to show you just a little bit about macros, and I'm going to tell you how the order of which, if I had to explain macros in a very clear and structured and A to Z kind of way, what I would do it. So we're going to make a reset button. And we can reset things to a base case and to another case. I made another video about that. Okay, if I'm repetitive, I'm really, really sorry. Okay, that's what's going to be in this video. I'm going to make a second video that's going to really try to explain something much more interesting about economic depreciation using PMT, using the EBITDA plus the economic depreciation to arrive at an electricity price. Okay, so let's look at a couple of things. So let's go maybe step by step. The first thing is, how do we make this so we can turn things on and off, or in this case, just only turn the solar on? And if we turn just the solar on and we don't have too much wasted solar, you can kind of see what the levelized cost of solar is, and it's really low. And if we put a higher return in because our higher cost of capital is much higher, remember this should be target real IRR. And remember, if we start changing the lifetime, then we get a different levelized cost. And it's working until I go way too long, until I go to about 35 years. I should have fixed something on the terminal value for that. Okay, that's a little a bit of background. If we could, this has got a really high solar capacity factor, and that's why we have such a high levelized cost. If we have a lower capacity factor or yield, we'll get a lower number. This should be, I guess, KWH divided by KWP or something like that. Okay, and we should be a little more explicit about this. So how do we do some of these? Now, I'm sure okay, I'm feeling a little bit conflicted now. Okay, and let's illustrate a couple of these. The first thing is whenever you have a series, a time series, or a series of different factors you're looking at, and this could be either in this case we put the different amount of customers who are going to hook up to our new mini grid system in different years. And then we also use different load profiles. And this, we inserted this. The way you insert these things is you go to insert and spark lines and just select it. It's pretty easy to do that. And then we get a code number, and every time you do this, whether you use the choose command or the index, you can find this number, and you can find this number either by getting the developer tab. Now, if you do not happen to have the developer tab on your computer, go to the options, and then what you do is go to customize ribbon, and then you go to developer. Ooh, it's a little different than it looked last time. Okay, if it's not there, make sure it's there so you can have a secret little handshake. Okay, so that's got to be there. Now, if you want to do, if you've got a code number you're aiming for, you could do two things. Let's do two things. One is kind of useless. We can make a spinner box, and the spinner box is going to say, and I should have made this much clearer, this is index. We select only this column, and we look at a code number. So if it's index number 5, we got the 5. And if it's 4, we've got the 4. When you do this, please, you got to use the zigzag S3 glass, the windscreen wiper, windshield wiper, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can press 6, and whenever you do something like this, you go back one sheet, back to this sheet, you click on the number. And the reason you go back and forth to the zigzag method is so you can copy this, to another sheet. I have not, don't worry, I'm okay. I haven't been having a glass of wine or anything else. Okay, now if you instead want to do it with a drop-down box, well, you go again. I'm trying to explain things clearly, hopefully. Go to the developer tab, insert, go to this one, the second one. Make a little beautiful box, right click, go to format control, and this time you go to another sheet, back to this sheet, and this time you select the area and you're aiming just for, go back to this sheet, back to this sheet. You're aiming only for this. So that's how we make those little things. Okay, and then we have them. Whenever you do this, it's always a pain. It puts nothing in first, and then you can do this. And the reason you're doing this is so you can copy this and put that over here, which of course I did. So you can just paste it over here. Let's undo that one because it's not quite artistic enough. And you remember this one changes the load profile, and in the last video I went through a dispatch analysis and tried to explain, okay, this is the dispatch for a day. What I did not do is I did not explain that we could take day 108, and this time let's put a little more solar in here. Okay, and we're just going to put solar and diesel right now. Okay, and that's going to, hopefully we got to put enough diesel to get rid of our red area. Whoops, I've got to do it the other way. Okay, so this is, please turn this video off if this is too kind of basic for you. How do we next put these things in so we can either use a checkbox or a spinner box? It might look, you might say, oh, God, is that simple? Idiot, don't show me that. And that's what I'm worried about. But I have to admit, it took me kind of decades to figure out. Okay, and all we're doing in this case, number one, is when you use these check boxes, and again, if I have to show you, I'm careful because I'm thinking about how much I was swearing because this lady from Canada was trying to show me how to fix that hole, didn't explain exactly what to do, and I thought it was easier than it was, and oh my God, I had to be so patient to do it, and I couldn't get it done. So the developer, you go to the developer tab and then you go to insert and you get the checkbox. I don't think I have to make one, although I just did. And when you do this checkbox, this is really a pain. This time it worked. I don't know why it worked. Half the time you're deleting it and you're blind and you put something like solar in here. Okay. All right. Now we're not going to do it in here. We're going to do it all in the inputs. And when you do it in the inputs, okay, we'll go down to solar. So I put a little true and false. All that thing does, the cell link is a true and a false. And of course, you go to the zigzag, poof, the zigzag and the windscreen wiper. Now, when you do one of these spinner boxes, it only works with a whole number. It does not work with a decimal. And that's not a big deal at all. And you can make it so it works with a negative number, and you just have to do the little thing in 2 steps. So right here, I put the inputs here. And by the way, if I wanted to, you can always copy these right here. And after you copy these, you see it says 48. Well, instead of 48, I can put 46. And it will put it in G46. It will just put my little spinner box here. Okay, and then I can go up and down on this one. Okay, I'm not going to do that. So you can copy these really easily. And my friend Mike says, oh, no, no, you can also size them right. No, there's a way to size them exactly in a cell, and I forgot how to do that. Okay, he can do it. So I push this up or down. And then the second step, of course, I shouldn't say of course like that, is to divide it by 100. Or in this case, yes, because it's a percent, and this percent is more than 100%. That's because we're putting a bunch of extra solar in so we can perhaps use the solar to charge a battery. Okay, put a little more in, a little less in. Okay, and now, but at the same time, here on this one, we might want to turn it off. So all we do is after we divide it by 100, we multiply it by the true or false. True or false is 1 or 0, and we just switch it on or switch it off. Okay? I'm trying to be a little more precise and a little more specific and give you some ideas. Okay, and I've got a reset button that I haven't attached, and that's how we do the battery. And we change the things around, and whoops, what happened here? Oh, okay. I sometimes, of course, if you do idiotic things like I sometimes do, and only went to 100 where you might want to go to 300, you can put that in. Of course, you can change the increment or make it, instead of going up by 1, you can go up by 10%. Okay, that's that. Okay, now the criticism and the legitimate criticism of this. First, people would say, oh no, you can't do this inputs like this. You need to put it in one single row and call it input C, one single column, excuse me. And then you put all your other cases here. And if you have those spinner boxes, you're very bad because you're going to give it to somebody and then you'll never remember what the base case is. But over here, we can make these into a base case. In fact, we can, and what we're going to do is reset everything. And I've said this before, so I'm sorry if I'm making this a little bit repetitive, but we can make another, this one I'm just going to let you imagine. You make another scenario sheet where you put 800 in one column and call that the base case, and 400, 600 in another and call that the good case, and 900 in another column. And then what comes over here could come from a whole scenario analysis laid out in your special columns and everything else, and you're okay. Oof, then you're okay. Okay. Well, not exactly okay, because some of the things you don't want to do, and the life is the same thing. Now, if you're going to use range names, and what we're going to do is make a reset button, and this reset button is simply going to take whatever in the base case and reset it to the applied case, so that when we make our summary analysis and show this to the boss and show this to the investor or whoever, we can say, no, 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 let's reset everything so we can start all over and remember where we started from, because it would be a legitimate criticism that if you start changing this, I can't remember. I had a case, but I just want to do a little sensitivity on this, or I just want to turn this on and off, and I can't remember where we started. And this is particularly the case if I'm changing the cost of the solar and the lifetime of the solar, and maybe even the capacity factor. And so how do we do this? We use a macro. And if I had to list if you want to start thinking about macros, and maybe I'm thinking about making a video going from the beginning to the end. The first macro I would make is a shortcut macro. So if you ever have to go up to this home page and you think, I am so fast at finding these dates, and I want a short date, and I want to format this, and I want to put 1/1/2020, something like that. Whoops. Then I press Shift F3, but somebody says, no, I'm not used to looking at 1 January. I want to put a date in with the other format. What you do is you don't move. You click on this and you click on maybe Shift Control H. You have to find one that's not already taken. I take way too many of this. I'm not moving, I'm not moving, I'm not moving. You go to this one, and then you go to the whatever you want to do and click on that date, and then Shift Control H will work. The next thing you're going to do is do a goal seek. And then you better use range names in the goal seek. And after that, you can do a Monte Carlo simulation, because that's so easy to do. And then after that, you can make a data table, and make a data table with a goal seek and everything else. And after you've made a data table, you want to solve a circular reference. And after you've solved a circular reference, you might want to do a data table and circular reference. And after you've finished with these kind of things, maybe you want to get a little bit fancier and make a user-defined function. And you might want a user-defined function for a circular reference. Okay, so those are the kind of order if I had to go through the macros. And I'm going to do that. That was a little bit of a digression. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have the same attitude where I'm going to try to explain things in a clear way where you turn off the video if you're an expert at this already. So one of the things we're going to do here in our macros, I almost should put it here, and I almost should call this a reset a macro. Okay, and when you do a macro, when you make a macro, do a macro isn't really the right way to say it, is it? I'm not gonna do it. Okay, you need to name ranges. And right now, if you want to find all the named ranges, you can press the F3 key and press the the paste list. And we can see, we can get a list of what we've named and where they go. And we're going to use that because when you make a macro, if you refer to this range right over here, and I want to reset this 700 that we started with, let's make it 650. Although maybe that's low for a mini grid. Okay. Okay, that's what I want to do. And you notice this is named solar base. Over here, this is named H50. We could say range whatever I50, I'm sorry, range F50 here equals range I50. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to find a range name. But if you do that and then you insert a row, if you insert a row, everything will not work. So it's kind of like when I was doing my stupid little thing where trying to fix the hole in the ceiling and I didn't explain it enough. Okay, that will not be good. By the way, the reason this is slow, sometimes your inputs take a whole lot of time to find, and that's because if they go to a whole, if your sheets are long, okay, sometimes the other reason the inputs can be a mess and take a long time to insert and change and all that is if you have too many conditional formats. I'm afraid to even look at that. Now, I already did this with this one. You select an area. The next thing you can do to find a range name is you can press Control F3. It was F3, Control F3. And the next one is you select the area and you press Shift Control F3. And it says create names from values. It used to not say it very well. Now it says create names from values in the right column. And then we do this one and we press Shift Control F3. And did I do that correctly? Because this should have been, yes, they were both in the right column. And then we can do the lifetime, Shift Control F3. And we're going to make the thing that says we're going to make solar life applied equals solar life base. And you don't have to do it like this. You could also type the range names manually up in this range box. But if you do this, you've kind of documented a little what you've done. Maybe you could clean it up a little bit. It's a little bit messy here, I know, and maybe somebody would really say criticize this for being unstructured and okay. And so I'd have to think about better ways perhaps to present this a little bit. But I'm just pressing Shift Control F3 every single time. Okay. And then once we have done all of this, Shift Control F3, uh, 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 do I have any more? That's enough. You can do it clearly with absolutely everything. That's the wax and everything else. So we put the characteristics, and if you think about just about any investment in the world, you've got CapEx, OpEx, how you get the revenues, how much you produce, the production, CapEx, OpEx, and lifetime. Those are the fundamentals for absolutely everything, and that's what you have to do. There are tax issues that can arise. There may be replacement costs. There are other kind of things as well, but that's the fundamental. So now once we have this reset button, what we'd like to do is put something like this. Right now it's just blank, and who cares that it says button? We can leave that. There's no reason we can't leave that. And we'd like to put something like range solar applied with double inverted commas equal range solar base. And it's a really good idea because once you get into the macros, it's a really good idea to put the value here. It's not necessary, but I found I have no idea why whoops, not validation value. Now, I am sure I forgot the name. I am absolutely sure I forgot the name. There's our shortcut key down there, by the way. So to get this, I am going to go back to our sheet. It doesn't really matter where. Maybe I'll put it in these class notes. Who cares? F3. And now we put all those things in here, and we can get a nice little list. We, of course, don't need these. What we do need is the names, so we don't forget them. And luckily, they're sorted. I hope they're sorted in a okay kind of way. And then we just have to hope that we can somehow copy those. And the good news is we can. By the way, I did some stuff that I can't even remember. I can't remember if it's edit. No, it's edit. Somehow I changed the names around. Oh, you can mess around with that. So the first one, I put solar applied, and we're resetting it to whatever we had in solar base. So wow, we did this one. And then we can copy these and do the same thing, almost like this, I suppose. It's not going to take us that long, is it? We're going to put this up here. So we put this now. If you use ranged names, the other thing about using ranged names is I'm pressing Control X, just like a regular old copy. And then the next one is, so I've done this one right now with the life. And then we can put diesel applied equals diesel base, okay? And we'll do up here, and we press the X. Okay, I'm sorry to be repetitive, but I'd rather be repetitive than not tell you what I'm doing, and that's what uh, those people who were so good at fixing those holes did. Okay, I still the much better thing is those auditors who couldn't spell the word misspelling. Wasn't that a good one? Oh, that was yeah. I was having such a crappy day, and that made my not only my day, it made my week. Okay, so we have all of these, and why did I just what did I just do? Why didn't I put this here? And I'm gonna diesel life applied equals diesel life base. I suppose I could do it like this, couldn't I? Okay, and up. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Okay, and finally we've got a couple more. Let's get our battery cost and our battery life, and diesel life applied is already there. So let's get a couple of more of these, and I'm always making the current one equal to what was in the base. You don't want to change the one that's in the base, and you could, I suppose, do this. You could even have a downside and all that, but again, you can grab the what was called base. That can come from a whole standard kind of scenario analysis, and I just am so sick of doing this kind of stuff. I think this is enough. Okay, that's our little macro, and it illustrates at least that we have to use the range names. And oops, uh, somebody can tell me what I'm doing. See, I'm not even switching it off when I make a mistake. Maybe that is irritating to people. And if you get this, oh, don't press the help key. That's a mess. Okay, and then hopefully it's going to be okay. And that's our button click, and we can put this reset button wherever we'd like. So now if we put our whoops, let's make sure and see that we have some different lives and different costs. If we put the reset button in, oh, please work. Ah, I hope that those are the lives we put in. So if I change now I'm going to say, okay, I really want to hope that the battery cost comes down. Because if the battery cost comes down, here's my new cost, 15. a sense, and if I could even get a longer life on a battery, which is not very realistic. And I didn't put degradation in, by the way, which should be in, but you can watch all the other videos on that. And then I put the reset in here, and I suppose it's working. I could even get a little, let's get a little tinier, fancier with a macro. And if you wanted to, this is just a little bit. There are a lot of things in a macro. You can mess around with this, uh, uh, but you notice it took a little bit of time to calculate. So what you can do is you can put status, calc status equal application dot calculate calculation. Now some of these things, okay, on the disk I put thousands of kind of macros, and so some of these things you got to get a little used to, and then you can put it to manual. And then when you're finished with this, when you're finished doing these things, you can just reset it to whatever it was before. So then you can put up here application calculation equals the CALC status. And please, you know, just it took me a while to get used to this. Okay, it wouldn't take you longer. I mean, it will take you a lot shorter, so we can see what happens to the life, and then we can say, okay, well, the real question for me is what happens right now. Let's make sure not put too many batteries in. So if you put less batteries in, we're going to start to waste some solar. So this seems to be about the right level of batteries to put in. And then we've got this amount, and we can look at the diesel too. Oh, that was not enough diesel. We've got a little red, which is the unserved energy. Let's put a little more in. So that when we do that, our number is 16. Now, again, if I could make my battery cost a little lower, a lot lower, and if I could make the life longer, and I think it's almost more important to make the life longer, then I could get it to 15. Okay? Now, what if I didn't put the battery in? And so instead of, now we're wasting some solar, and I can put a little bit less solar in. And this was not a great example. Yes, it was, I suppose. And we can see, well, what's the electricity price? And in this case, the diesel and the solar, it was kind of, well, I don't know. It was better to waste a little solar, it looks like, and uh, uh, but you can see that in this case, with some positive assumptions about batteries, it was helpful. And then we just press the reset button, and we're back. And I hope you saw that it worked faster than it would have otherwise. And now, just one other thing. Okay, in my introduction to this little analysis, remember we went through the solar. Now this time I changed this, and I actually put went to the PVGIS. I hope that's where I got the pictures. Okay, and I went to a couple of places, and then when I went to them, I said, "Oh, no, 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 let's go and get the." So this is PVGIS. You can find that on my website. I've gone through this too many times. I go to get the hourly data. The hourly data you can get either with a fixed axis, a vertical axis, so you could get horizontal radiation, or you can put an inclined axis in. You can get it for multiple years, and you can get it on an hour by hour basis. This for me is just, and click on this, and then you get it. So I didn't really explain that one last time either. So I got one for Chad and Burkina Faso. I hope I pronounced the country okay. Sorry if I didn't. I doubt anybody from Burkina Faso will be watching, but maybe. Okay, okay. Where was I? Now, that was not funny. Okay, so if we change and look at a different date, now it's really possible, but can you see that the solar is changing? And this is the same sort of thing. When I'm looking at different dates, and what happened here, the solar's changing when I look at different dates. Let's put a little more solar. We could also reset the capacity. I didn't do that. So sometimes there was a little cloud somewhere in the sky, and then we got a little different solar. And every time we do that, uh, uh, we're getting different usages. We have to use more solar or less diesel. Sometimes we'll run out, and that's why we put this unserved energy in, and that's why we did this whole thing on an hour by hour basis. But the last question is, how do you get these little things here? And how do you get this day? And I suppose I could, if it would be better, it would be better maybe to put what day of the year it is, and if it's a weekend day or whatever. Or I don't know if the sun shines differently on a weekend day, but okay. So in the dispatch, this was all hour by hour by hour, and the way it worked, by the way, is you first put over here Alt EIS, and you go up to 8760 or 8759, and then you say, well, when is it a new day? And it's a new day when you divide this by 24 and you get a true, and then we count 1 to 24, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and for each day we put 24 hours of the day, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we reset that each period. That's so crucial to be able to just count to 24 and count the days and put a little flag in. And and then I explained in the last video, so I won't do it again, but we see how much load there is, take the solar away, how much battery there is. In this case, I must have switched off the batteries. Let's switch back on the batteries, and that's how we get the dispatch and the graph. And then the only other question is, how do we get that graph to work? Oh, I'm not great at it, but the first thing is we put what day we chose. Now, I suppose I didn't put the dates here, so I could put, if you wanted here, I could just put a date. Let's just put a date. And let's just realize that when you make a date, I'm going to make this 112022. How's that? Okay, and this time we'll press Shift Control 3. I always like to do that. If I take this one and put plus 1 divided by 24, it will give me the dates, and hopefully by the end I get exactly to December 31st. You might think that's not a big deal. It took me, let's say, 11 years to figure that one out. Okay, so then we choose a date. Now, when we choose a date, I took that from a little thing, and all we did again this time, I just made a counter that goes down to 365. And we can put a spinner box on this and just say, okay, go to 365 and just give me a number. Or we can take and we can right click and do the same sort of thing and make a little a spinner button. Or let's do it even one more way, and I'll get finished with this video soon. I'll just put 112022 and Shift Control 3 it, and then we put just equal. We'll just put this one plus 1, because now we're just gonna get the dates. Okay, and whoops, and can I double click on this one? I hope I can. Okay, and then all we would do, I can even just copy this over to here, and then where it says where we can't see it exactly, but on the uh, uh, instead of this one, I'm just going to select this one, and I think you need the mouse for this. I heard some silly, idiotic story that somebody isn't allowed to use a mouse. Oh my gosh. Okay, what a crazy, stupid thing that is. Okay, so we can get our days, and maybe since we I better have done a zigzag, which oh no, I didn't. Oh my gosh. Napoleon said that dress me slowly because I'm in a hurry. And when I was trying to fix that stupid hole, I kept saying that because I tried to get done because I hated doing it so much, and I just kept going backwards. So we should we I went too fast. Okay, and now instead of this one, maybe we can put what day we are, so you can kind of see this might be a little bit better to way to do it, wouldn't it? Okay, and I'll put this version on our thing so we can see what day we have. Okay, and that's the solar in the day, and it would be really cool to kind of understand how loads work on a weekday and a weekend and all that. And if you wanted to do that, you could you just use the text function, and you put equal text, and you go over to here, and if you want to put the day of the week, you kind of put a few different days in there, and it tells you what it is. Of course, you better get the day right. That those solars want 2022 and all that. Okay, good. Now the last thing before I finished, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Okay, and the last thing is on this dispatch model. So we put this in, and it might be really a good idea. Why don't we get this? Okay, and we copy this, and we want to get this one, and that happened to be the 200th day of the year. Okay, and if we go to the next day, we get another day. Okay, and that's the 204th day of the year. And then you go up here and you use the match function. And don't be chintzy. Use it on the whole line. I've got a whole bunch of crap in this model, and it still is not that slow. Okay, and you put a comma 0, and it'll find that gives you the column, and it should say match to find column. Okay, and then once you find the column, you start with that column. Okay, and I put a F4, and then you just up here, if we didn't have this in here, I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna put 0, and I'm just gonna go to Alt EIS. I did that fairly quickly, but you really hopefully can get used to that. And I should have pressed the tab, and then this number is simply it was a little bit backwards, but I put this down here. So this is the first column, the second column, the third column, and then I said, oh, let's go up and get the solar energy that we used for the load. And then it's just like a waterfall kind of a graph. And I'm going to get this line, and we just use the index function with the match. I'm an advocate now of XLOOKUP instead of index and match. But in this case, yeah, we could have used that as well, but we're just going to say index, and if I want the solar energy for the load, we do the same thing, and we click on the entire column, and then you go up to the column number. And remember, the index works with either a row or a column. Just please get used to the index function. Shift Control R. Oops, and what did I do? Shift Control S. Whoops. Did I? This was I used row number 11 instead of row number 12. Excuse me. And then this is how much you're discharging the battery, how much diesel you're using, how much you're using to charge the battery, how much other solar you have, how much unserved energy you have, and finally the demand, which is way up in the top. This is number 8, how much demand we had. And that's how we make this graph. And we're just, again, trying to make a reasonable presentation. I'm not saying this is the best presentation. And once you have this, you just press take the area, and then you press alternate, 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 and F1. And it looks like a mess. And then I'm not really good at this because people get, whatever. I'm not going to the graphs, you can, I think you need to make, this is just a little philosophy. I've even read a book on graphs, but you want to make kind of one really effective graph and not make it too busy. It's almost too busy. And the only problem with this is that by stacking all these things for a cash flow waterfall, that very last one, you want to change just one series type, and for the demand one at the very end, instead of a stacked area, why don't we just use a line? Okay, and that's basically the graph we made, and that's how it all works. And you can put a title in, but we won't right now. Okay, and that's a little bit on some ideas about being a little bit creative and a little bit different in making your models. I'm even going to leave this graph here, okay? But the good news is I am going to stop making this video.